Good morning. I want to welcome you to week 3 of the Lackawanna County Library System's Winter Challenge. Actually, week 3 starts on Monday, but I'd like to give you the weekend to start exploring our new continent. But this week we are going to be exploring Africa. And if you visit our website, you will find a link for this page. And it's actually interactive. You can't tell from here, but the link will bring you to an interactive library. There'll be virtual tours all across Africa. There's links to some of the library's e-resources. There's some book suggestions, and those link to our catalog. And then, and there's a map of Africa. And you can see right here is our world map. We have visited Europe, and last week we visited Asia. So now we are visiting Africa. I'll give you a better view of this because it's kind of glary. So first I'm going to tell you about some books, and then I have an art project to show you. So we are going to start with The Seven Continents, Africa by Zukiswa Weiner. It is published by Children's Press, which is an imprint of Scholastic. So if you want an overview of Africa, this is the place to go. And it kind of shows you that Africa is not just deserts and savannas. There's rainforest and freshwater lakes. And there's some information about Africa's past and present, and pictures and maps. So a good overview of the continent of Africa. My next book to show you is Where is the Congo? And it's part of the Where Is series by Megan Stein and published by Penguin Workshop. Let's see, what can I tell you about? Did you know that there are 6 countries that are part of the Congo? You can find out more about the Congo by reading this book, but I do want to warn you that some of the history of this famous area in Africa, it's not very pretty, some of it. But it's very informative. Our chapter book that I'm going to tell you about is The Red Pencil by Andrea Davis Pinkney and illustrated by Shane W. Evans. Because if you look through, there are some illustrations throughout the book. And it is published by Little Brown and Company. And so we have this girl. Her name is Amari. She is 12 years old, and it kind of shows us how not every kid's life around the world is easy. There are some kids that are living in very tough circumstances, and what happens to Amari is that there's a militia group that comes to her town, her village, and her mom and some of the other villages, they have to flee, and they end up in a refugee camp. It's a tough journey getting there, and Amari is starting to feel not so great because a lot has happened and a lot of sad things happened. But she gets a pencil, and that changes her world because she always wanted to go to school, but in her village there wasn't schools for girls. There is a school not too far that she can go to outside her village, but not many people think girls should be learning, including her mom. So she gets a pencil at this refugee camp and kind of helps her start to feel more hopeful. But you have to read to find out how she feels more helpful with this pencil. And our picture book that I am going to show you is called My Rows and Piles of Coins by Tolawa M. Molel, illustrated by E.B. Lewis. And it is published by Clarion Books. And this boy, his name is Sarani. He's given coins every Saturday when he helps out at the market, and what he wants is a bike, but he has to save his money to get that bike. And he likes to pile his coins. That's how we get the title, Rows and Piles of Coins. When he counts it, he likes to make the piles and puts them in rows to help him keep track of how much he has. So you have to find out. You have to read to find out if he's able to save enough for the bike that he wants. So I hope you check out some of those books from the library. And like I said, there's more suggestions on that interactive library, and also there'll be a sheet in the comments that will give you they will have these books on them with a few others and instructions for the art project I'm going to show you. So I'm going to change our view here so you can see the area that I'm working in, and you can see the project and the materials you need. Here are our two art project options. Both are an African animal silhouette. I did a giraffe for both of mine, but you can choose any animal you want. So we have an animal pattern background. So for this one, I recommend an animal like a giraffe or a zebra or a cheetah that has a pattern on their fur. And then we have our sunset version. So I'm going to show you how to make each one separately. For both of them, you will need a glue stick. You will need white paper. You will need black paper, pencil. You could use a pattern if you have a printer. If not, if you look at a picture of a zebra or a giraffe, you can draw your own. And then, of course, your scissors. So before we get started with either one of these, you are going to pick out your animal, and I'll move it out of the way. You will either draw it or trace it onto your black paper. You can see on the sunset one, I also did a tree. So you'll trace it and you'll cut it out on your black paper. That's what we'll need: our pencil and our scissors. Okay, so after you get that done, we're gonna move to the two different options. First, I'm gonna show you the animal pattern background, and then I will show you the sunset background. Here is option 1, the animal pattern background. You will need your glue stick. We don't need that right away, so I'm just moving that to the side. You will need crayons, colored pencils, or watercolor paint. I am using crayons. So I'm going to use the black one for this, so I'm going to put the rest of my crayons aside. A pencil is helpful. You don't have to do this part, but it is helpful to make the project, just in case you need to erase something before you color it. And your animal silhouette. Now for this sample here, I am going to change it up from my giraffe here. My giraffe is going to be on the finished product that I'm going to flip this over and show you. So you have to pick out your animal. A giraffe and a zebra are good ones to go with for this project. A cheetah. Those are some of the three that I recommend because you can get patterns out of them. If you want to do an elephant, you could do maybe a light gray background. I do for the zebra, you could just draw your stripes. It doesn't have to be in any pattern because each zebra has a different pattern. So it helps to draw your pattern in pencil first. So then if you make a mistake, you can erase it. So I'm just going to start here for now. And then you're going to do that for your whole paper. And the color you choose, so with the zebra, I'm going to outline my stripes in black. If I was doing the giraffe one, I outlined it in brown, and I colored the whole thing in yellow. If you wanted to do something in an elephant that doesn't necessarily have patterns, you could just do a light gray background. Maybe you can do some spots a little darker to give it some texture. Then you're going to color in your stripes. And as I said, you're going to do that on your whole paper. I finished a pattern for a giraffe on the other side. So I'm going to put the paper like this. I tended to use diamonds and squares and rectangles. I do notice if you look at pictures of giraffes and their patterns, they're not necessarily, they tend to be more rounded. The edges tend to be more rounded, but I just kept it like this. I have my silhouette, and I'm just going to glue on like right there. Right. You can put it in the middle. You can put it standing a little bit lower where the edge is like something it's standing on. It's your project, so you can glue it on the paper however you like. There we go. So there is project 1, version 1, an animal pattern background. So you really want to take your time and think about the pattern of the animal you choose, and then go for it. Take your time drawing and tracing and coloring, or like outlining and coloring. The more you take your time, the better your project will come out. And if you make a mistake, you can just go over and try again. So now I'm going to switch out for the other option, which is the sunset background. We are ready for our option 2, the sunset background. So for this one, you will need the white paper, which you need for both, your glue stick, your animal silhouettes, or your animal. In this one, I did do a tree too. You don't necessarily have to have a tree in the background. That's optional. You'll need paper to do your sunset in. So you can use, I'm using the red, orange, and yellow. You can use pinks and purples in there too. So I got some of these ready in advance, but I'll show you with this one what you have to do. We're gonna make strips, and we don't want them nice. We don't want them nice and neat. Like if you cut them, we want them to have these edges like this. So you're gonna put I'm gonna move this out of the way so you can see better. Actually, I'll do it so you can see it on the white paper here. So I'm gonna hold my paper down, just kind of tear it. And some of mine did come out thicker than I originally anticipated, but when you're layering them, you could hide the thicker ones behind more paper. So I'm going to need a couple more strips here. And sometimes it does start, you see how here it's starting to come up to the top a little bit more. So I'm going to put my finger right next to it. I'm going to pinch it and make sure I'm going to kind of guide it a little bit more. And there we go. So now we have all our strips. You can put them on your paper any way you want. I did use a pattern, but you don't have to put them in a pattern. You can just do them like one color randomly. You need to put your glue on. So next in my pattern is red. And then I just put it on to cover any white spots. So we're going to do that for all the rest of them, all the way down. You can see this one's a little bit wider, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it up with some of my orange. You can see it's not quite as thin. I should only need one more orange, so I'm going to take this one. I'm going to take a little piece off to cover up this little white spot here. And I do have it hanging off a little bit, so because I can just trim it. Just I like the way that looks better. And I'm just gonna rip Oh, I messed it up there. It's okay. There we go. I'm trying to get rid of my flat edge there. Okay, so now we need our red again. This one takes a little bit more to cover up our white, yellow, orange. That was the one that I moved that one out of the way because that was the one that I cut from. And you see, this is from one of the flat sides, but that flat side's going to get covered up anyways by our final one, red. Actually, I'm going to move my orange down just a little bit. And then our red. I do have a little bit of white that's going to come up on the bottom, but that's okay. If you didn't like having some white edge, you could always trim it. Oh, I'm still going to need that. Now we're going to add my giraffe and tree. Now my tree's going to go in the background because it's smaller next to the giraffe, so it's going to go in the background like it's a little bit further away. So our tree's in the distance. The giraffe is going to be in the foreground. It looks like I need a little bit more glue here. A little more on the giraffe's feet. So here are two versions for you to make. The animal pattern and the sunset. At the library for this coming week, the sunset version, there'll be a kit with the sunset version, materials to make the sunset version. Because you will get the white paper, you'll get black paper, you'll get some patterns that you can choose from, and then you'll just need your glue stick at home. So I hope you have fun with our projects, and I hope you visit us again next week when we visit Australia.